What's up, everyone? Welcome to my 25 favorite albums of 2024. Now, in my humble opinion, this was one of the best years for recent new music. Maybe I say that every year. Okay, I probably do. Please don't fact check me. But this was such a good year for music, and I just want to give a shout out to techno music. Some of the best, most amazing, most current modern techno artists released an album this year, and I was all for it. I really dove deep into techno music this year, and I hope you'll see that reflected in my list. Otherwise, I can't wait to hear what you think about my list. What albums and songs do you like? Please leave me a comment, send me a private message. I don't even care. I just really enjoy talking about music. Here's my opportunity once a year to do that. Number 25. Let's get the ball rolling, okay? Actually, hold up. Some honorable mentions, okay? Oh my God, I actually recorded this entire thing and realized I left out some albums. I'm so dumb, so I'm starting over. Whew, I'm whipped, all right? I'm whipped. But I just want to give some honorable mentions. You know, there's so many albums. I like to wait until the end of the year so I can just catch up on all these albums I missed. No Name by Jack White is something I really want to put some time into. I hear it's amazing. I can't wait to listen to it. I love the singles. I really love the punk rock album Cartoon Darkness by Amyl and the Sniffers. Super fun album. The more I listen to it, the more I could put it on the list, maybe further up or add it to the list even. So check that out. Number 25 is Dance of Love by Tucker Zimmerman, okay? It's a softer, folksier record made by like an aged artist, but it's just a really enjoyable listen. Put that on a Sunday afternoon and just feel the warmth kind of just flow over you, all right? Number 24 is, and I am reading things on my computer screen here, okay? Number 24 is Scream from New York, New York by a band called Ben Stellar. Great band name, great new rock band, okay? I really think this is going to be a band you got to pay attention to throughout the next few years. This is their debut album. Just the first 3 songs just kick things off in, I think, a very memorable fashion. And I think it's just a great, my favorite, like, harder rock album of the year. Number 23 is an interesting album. It's Britpop by A.G. Cook. It's basically 3 albums into one. Those of you who don't know, A.G. Cook is one of the major producers of Charlie XCX's album this year, Brat, which you'll see later on in the list. But this is his solo album. Super underrated. For how famous Brat is, I can't believe I'm not hearing more about this album. A lot of amazing techno songs on here. Okay, so it's 3 albums. The middle album is like a classic, like, emo, grungy rock album where A.G. Cook plays guitar and sings, and then the first and third album are just like crazy techno albums. The package as a whole is super cool, super underrated again. I just think everyone should check this out, especially if you love Brat by Charlie XCX. Number 22 is Dreamstate by Kelly Lee Owens, another amazing techno album. Kelly Lee Owens, I think, has some good releases in the past. I think she's really going more mainstream with this album. The songs are faster, the production's more exciting, and what I really respect about Kelly Lee Owens is that she sings and really writes her own lyrics, which is, I think, kind of rare in sort of like this techno landscape. There's a lot of sampling going on, a lot of guest singers. She kind of does it all, and I just think it's a very memorable techno album of this year. One of my first favorites of the year. Number 21 is Wild God by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Nick Cave's last album, Ghost Teen, is one of really my favorite albums of maybe the last like 10 years. It's super insane, super in-depth, very memorable, very dense and dark. And Wild God is an interesting change, okay? Those of you who don't know, Nick Cave lost some of his children, okay? They horrifically died, and it's interesting to see his grief change into hope. And this is a much more hopeful, positive, powerful album. A lot of the songs are just upbeat, uplifting, which is strange to say about Nick Cave, but it's just a great album, okay? Check it out, Wild God. Ooh, number 20, Wild Card. Speaking of wild, things wild. This is going to be number 20, Slipping Away by Tim Heidecker. Now, those of you who don't know, Tim Heidecker is a comedian. He's always kind of made some like semi-serious or serious indie rock albums, and he released one this year. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. The way I describe this album, it's like a children's music album for adults. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. The lyrics are kind of straightforward, goofy, all right, and just endearing in a simple kind of way. But what makes this album, I think, enter my list is that like the last 4 songs I would describe as apocalyptic. Tim is talking about some pretty intense, interesting, weird stories going on about the ending of the world, and I just think it's just a crazy album in like a wholesome dad kind of way. Highly recommend it. Very underrated. Slipping Away by Tim Heidecker. Number 19 is The Great American Bar Scene by Zach Bryan. Now listen, folks, I'm not ashamed to say I've become a Zach Bryan fan. His self-titled album was not on my radar until maybe the last year or so. Really grown to love that album. I mean, I could sing along to all the songs on there. And he kind of quickly dropped this newer album. Now, I have a criticism. There's too many songs. And I think that's Zach Bryan's problem. He releases albums and just throws everything on there, which is cool, but I don't know. I think it kind of dilutes some of the joy of the album. But what's different about this album, I think he does a good job of becoming more of a storyteller. And that's what makes a lot of these songs interesting and enjoyable. Some crazy stories being told here. He's playing some different roles. And there are some very, I think, emotional songs that made me tear up a little bit. Great album from Zach Bryan. Number 18 is Patterns in Repeat by Laura Marling. A very beautiful sort of indie album. I listened to this album and I remember the first time I listened to this album, I thought it was good. Then I really started to listen to it, and I remember turning and telling my wife, like, holy crap, this is the best sounding album of the year. And it's weird for me to say that because this is a slower indie album, but it has the best production I think I've heard all year. The vocals are super crisp. The layering of the songs themselves are very beautifully done. And I just think, man, what a beautiful, beautiful album. We're going to go from a beautiful album to an absolutely insane album. Number 17 is I Lay Down My Life For You by JPEGMAFIA, the first rap album of my list. I've become a huge JPEGMAFIA fan. His style of rap and hip hop and making albums is just kind of crazy. Like the sampling and the lyrics are just all over the place. What I do appreciate about this album is that the sampling is still super like glitchy and crazy, but I love the kind of the integration of more heavy guitars and like doom rock elements. It's kind of hard to explain, but it just adds like just a much more heavy hitting element, these rock elements to his rap music that make this album just as exciting, if not more, than his other albums. Number 16, Honey by Caribou, another techno album. Really love this album. I actually recorded this entire video, left this album off the list. I forgot to add it. And then now I'm just re-recording everything. I was so frustrated. But again, another classic sort of techno artist released an album this year. Super good album, a lot of great samples, a lot of stuff going on. I would say this is more of an upbeat techno album, kind of goofy in a way, and highly recommend Honey by Caribou. Number 15 is My Light, My Destroyer by Cassandra Jenkins, okay? Cassandra Jenkins released a pretty amazing album maybe 2 years ago, and she became kind of really famous for her song Hard Drive. Beautiful song, one of my favorite songs of that year. And at first, when I first heard this album, I thought it was a little boring, okay? This is probably the album that has grown on me the most throughout the year. Every time I listen to it, I find something new, something interesting. She has more rock elements to some of her songs, which I really appreciate. Sometimes her music can be a little slow and meandering, but I think the more I listen to this album, the more I appreciate how in depth and deep each song goes. I should probably talk more about songs as well. Clams Casino, I love that song. Petco is such a good song, and I just highly recommend this album. Great little indie rock album. Now for number 14, I'm cheating a little bit. I have 2 albums, Wall of Eyes and Cutouts by the band The Smile. Now those of you who don't know, I don't really want to disrespect all the members of this band, but this is kind of like Tom York's side project. What an amazing, prolific amount of work this band has been doing. 2 albums this year alone. And I do think they're different enough to be separate albums, but I kind of see it as like a catalog of this year's songs from them. Wall of Eyes, some beautiful, amazing songs. One of my, probably honestly, man, I don't know if I should say this, my number 1 favorite song of the year, or at least was for most of the year, Bending Hectic on the album Wall of Eyes. What a wild song. Beautiful, slow build up, and then it just all comes crashing down in one of the coolest ways imaginable. Please go check that song out. And then Cutouts came out towards the end of the year, equally as good. I love the song Instant Psalm, another slow, classic Radiohead kind of sounding song. And then this album I think is interesting. A lot of the songs are mid-tempo and they feel like they kind of have this spontaneous jazziness to them, which I think is pretty exciting. Both of these albums are amazing. Please check them out. The Smile, crazy band. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Number 13 is In Waves by Jamie XX. Another big techno artist, released another big album this year. There was a point listening to this album, like towards the end of the album, where I just said, I think I said this to my wife, I said, is this the best album of the year? Is it? Man, what a cool album. Okay, it didn't become number 1. Like, this is just a good year of music, but what an amazing album. Jamie XX does a lot of sampling, a lot of crazy stuff going on in his albums. And I just want to shout out like the last 3 or 4 songs of the album. What a run. Okay, we got the song Breather. Crazy, crazy song. Longer with some interesting vocals intertwined. All You Children featuring the Avalanches. Again, throwback to the Avalanches. What an awesome song. And then the album ends on a wild ride called Falling Together. Again, these songs have some interesting vocals and talking elements. Some might call pretentious, but for me, I just think it's pretty interesting, pretty cool, especially when there's kind of a wild message going on. And I think these songs especially set this album apart from the other techno releases, other releases this year, and makes it something special. Number 12 people. Number 12 is Bright Future by Adrianne Lenker. She's the lead singer of Big Thief. They're another prolific band. She's a prolific artist, released her a solo album this year. And this is a slower, kind of indie rock country-ish album from Adrianne. I didn't really like it at first. I thought it was a little boring. Maybe I was listening to like too much techno music. And when I hear these slower indie rock albums, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But man, I was like, my wife fell in love with it. So I was like, I gotta listen to it more. And there was a moment where I was like, what song am I on? And I was on like song 6 or 7. And I was just like, every song has been amazing. And that experience, I think, really showed me how amazing this album is. Some of the most beautiful, heart-wrenching, emotional songs of the year are on this album. Sadness as a Gift, I think, has been one of the best songs of the year. No Machine, Free Treasure, Vampire Empire, like the list goes on. Some of the most beautiful songs of the year. Kind of a quirkier song towards the end, Donut Seam, is one of my favorites as well. If you want something a little more slower, more emotional, I say check this out. It's just a beautiful album. Now number 11, almost in the top 10. Number 11 is another highly underrated wild card techno album. Something that was never on my radar until I think I randomly read the review on Pitchfork. And they gave it like kind of like a 7 something. But I was like, yeah, maybe I should check it out if it's techno. It's Two Shell by the band Two Shell, so self-titled. Highly recommend if you're into techno music, check this out. It's a really cool album. 3 of my favorite techno songs of the year are on this album. The album starts with Come to Terms, really cool song. The second favorite is Everybody Worldwide. And then my third, maybe one of my top 5 favorite songs of the year is Stars by Two Show. A lot of interesting things going on with this group, with this artist, and I've honestly, this is probably the album I've listened to the most the past month or so. It's really growing on me. Check it out. We are in the top 10, folks. Holy crap. Number 10 is Mahashmashana. Number 10 is Mahashmashana by the legendary Father John Misty. Now, this album came out not that long ago, and those of you who don't know, for whatever reason, whenever Father John Misty releases an album, Kendrick Lamar has to release an album too. And so I feel like, sadly, this album was heavily overshadowed on its release day not that long ago by the new Kendrick Lamar surprise drop of an album. Even though I'm a huge Kendrick fan, I really put the effort into listening to this album, and I really truly believe it is one of the best albums of the year. It's only 8 songs. Every song feels vital, feels important, feels interesting, and every song is beautiful. The intro song, Mahashmashana, is one of the coolest songs. Sounds like maybe an old Beatles song. Josh Tillman and the Accidental Dose is a really interesting song. Again, very beautiful, very goofy. Now, one of my favorite songs of the year was his earlier release song, Screamland. It is a powerful song. People criticize it for sounding a little too mainstream, and it does, but I love it, okay? I just think it's such a great song. And then, second to last song, I guess Time Just Makes a Fool of Us All. Again, he released that earlier in the year, and it's just such a cool song. It's like 8 minutes long. It's just a nice little jammy song. Really classic sounding album, a crooner. Father John Misty is a crooner and makes really amazing classic sounding albums. This is probably his best work to date. Number 9. Now, I'm seeing this album on a lot of best albums of the year lists, and it's Romance by Fontaines DC. Okay, I have been a fan of them the past few years. I had the great pleasure of seeing them open for Arctic Monkeys, maybe like last year or the year before. Super great live band, and they're another prolific band. They're just dropping an album every year, and they're getting better and better and better, which is kind of getting scary, all right? Romance is, I think, their best album. They released the song Starburster early on in the year, and they really, in a weird way, they were promoting the album months before it even came out. I mean, they were on like late night shows doing live performances. Starburster is such an amazing song. Go check it out. What a cool song. It really represents the band well. And I think they do a better job of just having more consistent songs on this album. Kind of a diversity of genres a little bit here and there. Motorcycle Boy is a good little rock song. And then the final song, Favorite, on the album, I think has become some people's favorite song of the year. A little more changly, like the Smiths influenced song. What a cool band. What a great band. They're taking over the rock world. Fontaines DC, Romance. What are we on, folks? What are we on? Number 8. Number 8 is GNX by Kendrick Lamar. This album came out late in the year, not that long ago. I'm still trying to process it. I'm still rocking it. What an awesome rap album. Okay, Kendrick Lamar sometimes gets lost. He gets lost in his own artistry, and so I think his last album had a lot of random little threads of artistic inspiration that was just all over. It got a little meandery. This is more of a straightforward rap hip hop album. He had one of the biggest songs of the year, Not Like Us, and he continues that style, I think, of just straightforward, intense hip hop rap on GNX. What a wild album. Okay, I just want to comment on a couple songs real quick. This is probably, I think, the first song, Whacked Out Murals, I think is one of the best intros to any Kendrick Lamar album. What a cool intro, what a cool beat, and how the song builds and then just gets crazy. Love it. The second song, Squabble Up. Now, this was kind of his most recent single that he released with a video. One thing I want to say, it's just a funny song too. I think that's something underrated about Kendrick Lamar. He's funny in his music, does a lot of goofy things, and just goes for it. You know, Squabble Up is crazy, great rap song. Man at the Garden, so good. Reincarnated, what a wild ride of a song. Really interesting storytelling. TV Off, again, these are some very intense, straightforward, classic rap songs. I think the stature of this album is going to grow and grow and grow. A lot of people are making it like their #1 album. I don't know if it's quite there for me yet, but man, I'm loving the ride. GNX by Kendrick Lamar. Number 7 is 3 by Four Tet. Another electronic sort of techno album. Now, this was one of my most anticipated albums of the year. And before the release, Four Tet toured and did this crazy sort of tour with Skrillex and Fred again. And they played some huge shows, selling out like crazy, had absolute bangers of music. So anticipating this next Four Tet album, I was like, this thing's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be wild. But what I love about artists and music is when they can like subvert your expectations. This is not a wild techno album. It's beautiful, it's minimalistic, if you will, and it's just a very interesting techno album. There's not really any bangers on this album, and I love it for it. The intro, Loved and Gliding Through Everything, and Storm Crystals, I think kind of set the tone, like this icy, minimal tone. And then Skater, 31 Bloom, more upbeat, Daydream Repeat, more upbeat. The last song, 3 Drums, I think is one of the best things he's ever done. Again, this is just a beautiful album, beautiful techno electronic album without the bangers, all right? You don't need the bangers, folks. And it's so cool. Number 6 is Blue Lips by Schoolboy Q. This is another one of those albums that came out earlier in the year. I've had a lot of time with this album. I've listened to it a lot, and I love it. There's a ton of songs on the album, and it's really a back to form for Schoolboy Q. I think he's one of the more like artistic, goofy, weird rappers out there. And this album, he has a lot of those artistic flourishes, and he almost has like a sense of elegance about his hip hop, which is hard to describe, but this album feels like almost like jazz inspired. Also, obviously, there are some very heavy hitting songs, and that's what's so cool about this album. It goes all over the place. I think there's like 18 songs, so he's just jumping around from track to track. Wow, what a cool album. Blue Lips by Schoolboy Q, my favorite rap album of the year. Let's see, are we in my top 5? Let's go. Number 5, The Past Is Still Alive by Hooray for the Riff Raff. Actually, I would say this was like my #1 favorite album for a long time throughout this year. It is kind of a country inspired guitar rock album. For all the artists that I think are like going country this year, Hooray for the Riff Raff, I think was the most natural feeling. She always kind of had these elements to her music, and now they're just more front and center. And this album feels like kind of a grimy, grungy country album from the desert. Just a lot of cool songs, a lot of great guitar playing, a lot of great singing. Her voice is very, very specific. Her lyricism is very interesting. And I would just say pound for pound, from one song to the next, this is the most consistent album of the year. Every song feels like a solid piece of work. I really love Alibi, Buffalo, Hawk Moon. Great little 3 combo at the beginning. Snake Plant, I love that song. I also really love the last song called Ogolala. Very powerful ending to a really amazing sort of country desert album, all right? Number 4 is Clouds in the Sky, They Will Always Be There For Me by Porridge Radio. Really love that album title. Now, every year, there's kind of this quintessential classic sounding indie rock album that I just fall in love with. And I think this is this year's, all right? It's a very much an indie rock sounding album. A lot of guitars, a lot of singing, a lot of diversity in the power of the vocals, I would say. She can sing very soft and then gets very heavy during certain songs. There's other instrumentation, there's horns, there's orchestras behind this music. Very much is like a very interesting rock collective of an album. The song that really got me started on this album is called God of Everything Else. I would say listen to that, see what you think, and then dive in. This is such an amazing indie rock album. I love it. I love the power of this singer's vocals. And the structure of each song, I think, is very, very interesting. Highly recommend it. Don't have much to say. Honestly, this album could have been number 1. All right, I love it that much. Clouds in the Sky, They Will Always Be There For Me. This album will always be there for you. Please go check it out. Number 3 is Brat by Charli XCX. Folks, let's just be real. Some albums just deserve all the fame, all right? When this album came out, I remember reading like some amazing reviews and I was like, no way, I gotta listen to this. And I was blown away. I was addicted to this album since it came out for a number of months, okay? What I love about this album is really like a techno album in disguise. It's obviously a pop album, but if you put this album on, you can just start the party front to back with this album. Banger after banger on this album, okay? The first song, 360, one of my favorite songs of the year. Great way to start the party. Now, I do want to talk about, conversely too, the last song on the album, 365, kind of borrows elements. It's like a cool play on words. They go together. 365 is equally amazing. I would say it delves more into the crazy techno elements that this album has. I love it as well. Some other favorite songs of mine, Sympathy is a Knife, I love it. Von Dutch was one of the first singles I heard from this album, and the beat, the production is so interesting. Sounds like a revving of an engine of some sort just throughout the entire song. Gives it this like intense, wild feelings to it. There's also some kind of cuter, poppier songs like Rewind, Girl So Confusing, Apple. For some reason, Apple got super crazy. Also, some good lyrics from her as well. I Think About It All the Time is kind of a personal song for Charli. Man, I don't know what to say. What a cool album. What a great album. I just love it. It's addicting. It's fun. The beats and the production are just insane. They just add a whole other element to it. Again, some people just deserve all the fame. I think she deserves all the praise, all the fame for this album. Brat by Charli XCX. Top 2. Number 2 is 10 Days by Fred again. I have become in 2024 a Fred again fanboy. Never listened to him ever until the beginning of the year, and I just went all in, okay? He is a prolific techno artist, releases a lot of albums quickly, which I really respect and appreciate. Actual Life 2, Actual Life 3, some of his major releases are amazing. He released an EP called USB. Unbelievable. His music is hype. He's got banger after banger, like some of the best techno songs I've ever heard. He also adds a lot of I think interesting vocals and people talking and other artists and poets and things like that, which give his albums a very warm feeling. Now, he says that 10 Days is more of a slower, emotional album, I guess. And it's still a techno album. The songs are slightly slower. I would say there's not any crazy bangers that he's known for on this album. But I really just think it's a beautiful album. Front to back, I would say this album powered many parts of my life throughout this year. Just going on drives, getting work done, things like that, exercising. This was the background. What a beautiful album. 10 songs. Each of them I think is interesting and has interesting samples. Fred again is a true talent. He plays piano on a lot of these songs. He sings on some of them. I had the absolute pleasure and joy of seeing him live in Buffalo, New York this year. And what an amazing live show. If you ever get the chance, go see him live. He does some cool stuff I've never even experienced at concerts before. Anyways, I think this is a very underrated album. No one's really talking about it. Maybe because Fred again is like some mainstream loser. I don't even care. I love this album, 10 Days by Fred again. My number one favorite album of 2024 is Tiger's Blood by Waxahachie. Wow, what a complete, fulfilling album from one of the best indie rock artists, I would say, around. Tiger's Blood, I had a lot of time throughout the year listening to this album, and I just truly fell in love with it. Front to back, it's one of the best albums of the year. What I love about it is that there's an interesting diversity and structuring of slower and faster, rockier maybe songs. And that's what makes it such a fun album to listen to, such a classic sounding album. There's a diversity here. Now, I also want to comment, and I want to share this. I also got the amazing opportunity to see Waxahachie play this album live. And a live show shouldn't sway your opinion of an album, but I do just want to add this. When she came out at the beginning of her set, she kind of announced, like, hey, I have a new album, Tiger's Blood, out. And she said, I'm going to be playing every single song from that album. And she did. Throughout this show, she played every single song from this album. And to me, that is such a powerful statement. Not only do I think does it show the album's amazing, all right, but I just think it shows a level of pride that the artist has. When you can come out and play every single song on an album, I think that's rare, okay? I think that's rare. And it just solidified for me how amazing this album is. Every song sounded beautiful and amazing live. Some of the best songs of the year are on this album. I love the quicker, rockier songs like Crowbar, and then songs can slow it down completely and just be beautiful, like the song Crimes of the Heart. What a amazing, beautiful album. And that's the other thing too. I love Waxahachie's last album, St. Cloud. And I think her ability just to release amazing music is just really special. This is her best album. This is my most listened to probably, and my favorite album of the year, Tiger's Blood. Go check it out. What an amazing album. Her voice is truly unique, truly special. Her talent is limitless, and I'm loving this album. That's all, folks. That's it. 25 of my favorite albums of the year. What a year, what a list. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and ideas, not only about my list, but about your own. What did you like? What did you enjoy? What did I miss? Okay, I know there's so much good music. I missed so much. What did you love? Please share privately with me in the comments. I don't really care, but I'd love to hear it. I love talking about music. This is such a unique and fun opportunity for me to record these videos at the end of the year. And I can't wait. I can't wait for the next year. People, don't lose your spark. Don't lose your hope. Be yourself. Do what you want. Have a wonderful new year. Have a wonderful 2025. We'll see you at the end. And if anyone needs anything, please feel free to reach out. I love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful day whenever you're watching this video. And let's enjoy some music together. Goodbye, everyone. Love you. Goodbye.